One of my bigger fears is that I won't turn off the microphone when we get finished and my singing will dominate. I try to do that. We use some words that can easily become, and I guess commonplace. Maybe we'd think of it as preacher words. I know that Josh, in his prayer, mentioned our assembly as blowing a kiss to God. If you've got a little grandchild or a little child that says goodbye by blowing a kiss, it has significance to you. There are two predominant words in the Greek language for worship. Proskuneo is best described with blowing a kiss. I can't help but think of a little bitty one that would blow a kiss to you or to me and realize that that is what we are doing to God. The second most significant word translated worship is latreo. You can find it in Romans 12, 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. It's but reasonable to give your life to God. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed, that you may prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And so I see that it is worship the way I live my life, latreo. It is worship as we come together in assembly to blow a kiss toward God. Pay attention. Pay close attention when you blow a kiss toward God. Pay attention. Pay close attention to the way that you live your life. I heard a fellow once say, as he found himself in a setting that he was not comfortable with as a Christian, his exit was with these words, I believe Jesus needs to leave here, and I think I'll go with him. I thought that was pretty good. I thought I made that mine. And if the atmosphere gets rank enough that I think Jesus is going to leave, then I think I need to go with him. We're in the book of Matthew, 25th chapter. Common scripture. We will either find a point or two that's new, or we will bring to your remembrance the points that are there that are old. To some of us, some of the points will be new. To others of us, they will be redundant, brought to our remembrance. We'll start in verse 14 and look as what's said, and I kind of have broken it down into three pieces to give you the outline as we look at it. But starting in verse 14, and he says, for the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling in a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. Now, this is considered to be a parable. A parable is a godly story laid alongside a spiritual truth. The story is supposed to be quite clear to us, and therefore we deduce the spiritual truth that's set forth by God. We look at it, and it helps us. It helps us see God communicate to us. Well, it's not difficult at this point. The kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. He's leaving, so he's giving to his servants that which they are to do. The gifts start in verse 15. If you want the 3-point outline, there's point 1. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. So they had different talents. Talents started out to be a measure of weight, but it had come to mean a measure of money that was given. And I read 2 or 3 commentaries. The number that repeats itself, I don't know if one commentator's reading from another commentator, but it repeated itself, is that it's around $1,000. So it wasn't an insignificant thing that he left with his servants. He left one with 5,000, another with 2, and another with 1. Those are the gifts that are left. Then he goes on after that, according to his several ability. God didn't give us all the same ability. It is not legitimate justification to not use mine because yours is greater. One of the advantages of being a small congregation is we need many people using that which God gave them. But I would point out there are no 0 talent people. There are but the one. And when you start out as a Christian, it's easy to perceive yourself as a one. But when you look at the evolution of your life and what you've been able to accomplish in a secular world, pretty quickly you honestly deduce you're probably not a one. I may have a few more talents. Now, because you start a little later in life as a Christian, we do maybe start out as one, but we're going to attain abilities when we use the one that we've got. We'll see that in our parable. You're going to gain abilities as you gain experience and maturity. He goes on. And then I call the second point, starting in 16, the use of the talents. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. Well, now I find this interesting because this has an application to us as we take a physical story and lay alongside it spiritual truth. God didn't tell them how to use the talent He gave them. God didn't tell them what to do. What does that say to me? It says to me that God left it up to every man and woman's initiative. I've got to take the initiative to reproduce on the talents that God has given me. I have got to take the initiative. I think that's interesting. I see that, and I hear some other, and I call these peg verses. Peg verses, you know, you come in the back door in the winter, and some of us have a place to hang coats so they don't end up on the floor and all over the house. And you can hang 2 or 3 garments on the same peg. Well, peg verses have things that hang off maybe 2 or 3, but I think the principle here is a peg. Listen, if you will, to Luke 6:38, peg verse. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Peg verse. if I give, if I use me, if I begin to do that which my initiative says my God wants done by me, He's going to give me more. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Huh. You know what I see there, the peg verse says? You're not going to outgive God. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and then running over. Wow. I see that as I apply myself, God is going to make me able to do more than when I began. Well, that's the principle that we're working on. John 15:2 ties into that principle in my mind. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, He taketh away. But every branch in me that beareth fruit, watch this, He purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Well, I'll be. God's cutting off my bad limbs. God's helping me mature. God's encouraging me. And He's cutting off all the little saplings and all of the suckers and all of the dead limbs. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, He taketh away. But every branch in me that beareth fruit, He purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. That ties to me together with Luke 6:38. And I begin to see my God wanting to work in my life. You know, I heard an illustration once, and I don't drive 18-wheelers, so I had to take it at face value. But the fellow that did drive 18-wheelers said, it's really not very difficult to change their direction. The difficulty is getting them moving. It takes a lot of strength to get that much weight moving. But once you've got it moving, the slightest little alteration will change the direction. And I thought, that sounds a whole lot like my life. If I'll get moving, it won't take God much energy to change my direction ever so slightly. But if I don't apply myself to get moving, it's going to be a job for God to get me moving. And I think that we have a principle that has a great deal of value. Now, I call this the use, but go on to the next one, verse 18. But he that had received one went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. So we got three people, 5, 2, and 1. 5 used what he was given, brought together another 5. 2 used what he was given, brought together another 2. 1 refused to use what he was given. He kept it. Go on with the story, and the third point of the rest of the parable is the day of reckoning, or the consequence of whether you use or don't use. The day of reckoning. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoned with them. I think it's a legitimate point to call it the day of reckoning. And reckoned with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou hast delivered unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, watch this, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. We're in Matthew 25, the end of the chapter. He's going to set forth there a judgment scene where he divides sheep from goats. Now, it doesn't say judgment is, and some people think of judgment as a scale of balance. If my goods outweigh my bads, then I'll be all right. The Bible doesn't portray it that way. You see, when I get to that judgment scene, I'm already a sheep or a goat. He's just dividing the sheep from the goats. Oh. And I think of myself in line there. I guess maybe it started alphabetically, and we're working through the A's, but there's quite a few A's before we get to A-N. And then we get to A-N, and then we even got to A-N-D. And I can feel my body quivering, waiting to hear sheep or goat. And I hear my Lord say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord." And man, I'm thinking I got goosebumps that look like appendages. Hearing my master say, "You did well." I think the living of our lives, looking forward to that rather than dreading that, is putting life in its proper perspective. I'm not dreading that. I'm looking forward to hearing the person I respect more than any person on earth say, "You did a good job." And I want you to notice, I really want us to notice, principle. The 5 guy got the same commendation as the 2 guy. Same exact commendation. It's not down to how much ability you and I have. It's down to how we use the ability that we do have. How much ability I have is not, and I'm not going to get caught saying, because you do that better than me, I'm going to keep my seat, let you do it. No, that's me hiding the one talent that I do have. I'm going to insist that I use my initiative to find a way to be of service to my master. I'm going to insist on that. He goes on. Look, if you will, at 21. We'll go to 22, but you'll notice 23 is the exact same thing as 21. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, "Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them." See, that moves me back up to verse 15. According to their different abilities. Oh. Verse 24. Well, 23. His Lord said unto him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord." Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, "Lord, I knew that thou art a hard man." I knew that thou art a hard man. I think it's imperative that you stop right there and discuss your perception of what Jesus is. Jesus is not a hard man. Does that mean he has no expectations? Absolutely not. But he's not a hard man. You know, I reflect back, and I thought of this, was thinking of this, watching in the foyer, grown people basically begging little Levi to take a step. You know, everything they could to get him to take a step on his own. Oh, he wasn't going to hit the floor. They almost had their hands together, trying to get him to take a step. Brethren, I'm telling you, your Lord is trying to get you to take a step. And He's reaching with arms of love that say, you will not fall. I am trying with all that in me is to get you to take the initiative to take a step. I think no different than you and I trying to get a baby to take a step. I see my Lord as love. I see my Lord as concern. I see my Lord wanting me to use my initiative to grow. And Lord, there are no zero talent men or women. And I don't even know that I'm a one talent person. I may find out that I'm 2. I may even find out that I'm 5. If I just put one foot in front of the other and take a step. Do you see His arms reaching for you? Sometimes the arms suffice to take the step, because I know you're going to catch me. The arms suffice to the taking of the step. I know thou art a hard man. What a pitiful, pitiful view of Jesus that he had. Maybe what a pitiful, pitiful view of Jesus that you have. He wants for you success. He does not want for you failure. So badly that He extends His arms to the point where you can't fall. He's too close for you to fall. I know thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid. Why did the one-talent man fail? He failed maybe because he didn't have enough faith in himself. And I'm not using faith like biblical faith that comes by hearing and hearing with the Word of God. I'm using it as just self-esteem, belief in yourself. Maybe he didn't have enough faith in himself. Maybe he was saying, Lord, I can't. And I hear the Lord saying back, have you ever tried? Well, no, but I'm sure I can't. Well, if you're sure you can't without trying, it's a dead cinch you can't. Maybe he just had no faith in himself. What's the second reason as to why the one-talent man failed? I think the one-talent man failed because he was afraid. Wow. Listen to 2 Timothy 1:7. I think it's a peg verse, okay? For God hath not given me a spirit of fear. If I'm afraid, I didn't get that from God. God didn't give me a spirit of fear. Well, what did He give me? He gave me a spirit of power and of love and of right thinking. God gave me a spirit of power and love and right thinking. Well, then what is that fear stuff? And I affectionately call it stinking thinking. It's just not that which was given me of God. Well, where'd I get it? It's stinking thinking. It's just not good stuff. I stopped before I've started. I found another verse that I thought was helpful. I'm hoping you do too. I kind of refer to this as some sort of roll call in hell. Listen, if you will, to Revelation 21, 7 and 8. It says, but he that overcometh shall inherit all things. Look at that. Here's a little idea. Here's a little perception of heaven. He that overcometh shall inherit all things. I'm in heaven. I inherited all things. And he says, and I will be his God. And he will be my son. Who? He that overcomes. Well, how do you overcome? Revelation 12:11. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. That's how they overcame. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony, and they didn't love their lives even unto death. That's how they overcame. Well, I see that. He that overcomes shall inherit all things. And I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Heaven, this is my world. It's my world. My Father said it. I'm going to inherit it. I don't have it yet. But my Father has it, 1 Corinthians 3, 21 through 23, and I'm going to inherit it. Wow. Wow. And he will be my God, and I will be his son, therefore an inheritor. But look at verse 8. But the fearful and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and whoremongers and idolaters and sorcerers and all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire that burneth with brimstone, which is the second death. Roll call in hell? The fearful was the first one. Lord? And he said, no, wait a minute. I didn't give you a spirit of fear. You got that elsewhere. I gave you the spirit of power, love, and right thinking. And look at the crew that's there, tied in with the fearful. The unbelievers, I guess that's the atheists. The whoremongers? Well, Lord, I'm better than them. Really? You know any Bible for that? Seems to me that he's ranked us all right together. The fearful, the unbelieving. The whoremongers, the murderers, the idolaters, the sorcerers, the liars. And all of them equally will have their part in the lake of fire that burneth with brimstone, which is the second death. One talent man. Maybe you're just afraid. I think that's what it says in verse 26. His Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant. Slothful's lazy. Slothful's lazy. Well, maybe I don't have enough faith in myself. Maybe I'm just a shade lazy. Maybe a little more than one shade. 2 or 3 shades. Periodically, I try to evaluate my life. I read an article written by a lady named Jackie Adkins that basically boiled down everything that you and I are into 3 words, and I thought that was helpful to look at it that way. She set forth the idea that we are time, money, and energy, and that constitutes all of us. Time, money, and energy. I find that interesting because that enables me to study me. That enables me to search me. Look at the way I use my time. Look at the way I use my money. Look at the way I use my energy, and I pretty well have evaluated for you what's first in my life. Does my Bible study even come close to my TV time? Or to my recreation time? And I began to look at me, time, money, and energy, and see what really is first in my life. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Yeah, I'm going to inherit them all. All will be added unto me. I like that. 21, Revelation 7 and 8. I like them separate. I like them stuck together. I like the overcomer. The overcomer will inherit all things. And he will be my God, and I will be his son. And then I see the things that keep me from my God. And I say, Lord, I got to get total control of this. Because all that I am is yours, and all that I have is intended to be yours, and I've got to get control of this. Well, that's what he said there. The third thing that I thought of that gave me the idea that maybe what his problem was a lack of faith in his master. Lack of faith in himself. Just plain lazy, lack of faith in his master. My master can with me. He can. Can what? Fill in the blank any way you want it filled in. He can. And I see that, and I look at that and understand that. I see my God reaching for me, loving me, pitying me, extending His arms to me and wanting me to move. The consequences of using and not using are set forth by God. Let's read 26. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gathered where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with interest. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath 10. For unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. I think you've got a principle verse there in verse 29. A principle verse. The principle is, whatever I give you, use it or lose it. If you're not going to use it, I'll take it away and give it to somebody that will. Use it or lose it. It's a principle verse that we can nail down. And then verse 30. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I see God. And the way God's working, and I think He took a human story and laid it right across, right along, parallel with biblical truth. And I see the biblical truth that's contingent upon my initiative. I don't have to be what you are. I have to be what I am. And I have to use what I am to the best that I can use what I am. God doesn't want us all to be the same thing. He wants us all to be differing talents put together to make one body, that the body might function more ably. Last principle. I believe going with the parable is the concept. The 2-talent man got the same commendation, verse 23, as did the 5-talent man. What if I, as a 2-talent man, I'm really applying myself because I just don't have as much as you do? What if as a 5-talent man, you're saying, I'm already over double as good as he is. I can kind of float and just be a 4. And I believe you'll lose your soul with the decision to float. The decision to float is a decision that means I'm not really blowing a kiss to God. I'm only sort of blowing my kiss to God. I've elected to float because I've got enough talent that I don't have to extend myself. My point, don't measure ourselves against ourselves. Don't measure ourselves against ourselves. Heard a fellow say, well, I'm as good as half the people you go to church with. I said, yeah, which half? I mean, who wants to be on the top of the list that's going to hell? The fact that I'm the top of that list still is going to hell. And I realize that if I have great ability, I can't use that as an excuse to float. I've got to do all that I can do to express to my God all that I am is yours, and all that I have belongs to you. You have my time, my money, and my energy in my effort to blow a kiss to you. If we can be of help to anyone, please let us know how to do that, and we'd love to help. Otherwise, we've seen the masters lay alongside, and we reap from it the stories that we want to reap to make an application to ourselves. Let us do that as together we stand and sing.
Have you been to